Let's get started this morning. We're the gang. We're the party. We are the chosen people. And I want us to start us today thinking about that. Doesn't matter whether you even thought this community was yours. You showed up today, so you chose to be there. Come on, be here. Come on in, Chris. So you chose these people to hang out with, to be a part of. So in some ways we are that chosen people because we chose each other. So this morning I'm going to start us off with a little song. This is of a wonderful children's choir that if you want to go out and search them, they do cover songs. But I think some of the covers they do are far better than the original artists that they're covering. Advance them through the music. So what happens when all hell breaks loose? How about we just stop and pray?
Sounds like a plan.
I said there is no hell.
That's right.
Just broke loose.
So let's do that. Let's join in prayer. Let's join in knowing that you did show up here today. You chose to be here. In the midst of all this, you chose to be here. And you chose because just maybe you wanted to remember. You wanted to remember that there's one power and one presence. This great infinite that we often call God. And that this presence and power permeates through everything because it is everything. And that we come here to remember that not just in the big picture of life, but to remember that individually, that power and that presence is our power and presence. And that even in the midst of hell, seemingly, that power and presence is ours. And that we can reach in. As Charles Fillmore says, we can grow nigh, close, to embrace it and recognize it and then bring it forth so that we can claim that the Father and I are one same thing. So all that's available there, all that infinite potential is our potential. So we can call on that ease and comfort and steadfastness. We can call on abundance, prosperity, expansion, transformation. Whatever we imagine, whatever we dream, we call upon. And when we call upon it and bring it close, the Father and I are one, and we express, we expand into, because we are that one presence and one power. And we're grateful that we chose to come here today, and grateful that we had a place to choose to come, and grateful that this life and all its seeming suffering and hell-identified experiences, we know that there's an underlying truth, and we're grateful that we recognize that, and that we're in a community, in a family, that keeps affirming that for us. And so it is. Amen. Who knows what's going to happen next? Let's see. Let's do our opening invocation. Together, there is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe. God, the source of all good. Yay. You know, I'm thinking about Reverend Beverly last week. I don't know what y'all witness, but I watched her have this wonderful flow and energy through the morning. She shared what she wanted to share with us in the way of ideas and thoughts, but she had this wonderful pacing There was a flow that took place. And to me, it took me someplace that I could feel like, and y'all have heard me say this before, felt like I could sit down in. I don't think we're going to do that today. Not that I can't sit down in that space, but I think that maybe today is going to be a little chaotic, maybe a little rough around the edges. But that's where I am. That's the experience I am. This is me today. Let's sit here. Oh, come on. Let's see if it's going to play for us. I'm going to give it another little kind thought since I dissed the previous one. Let's see.
That was the Scorpions?
That was a Scorpion.
Scorpions?
Yes, I know some of you may not be a Scorpions fan, but I thought that was an inspired piece. Because so much of that, what the wise men were speaking to him were so many of the things we talk about here in Unity. But I also, to me, I read into that, send me an angel. You're telling me all these things I'm to do, but I need some help. Send me an angel. While also recognizing that I'm in the land of the morning star. What's a morning star? It was the guidance. It's what guided the sailors along the way. So the guidance is there. I'm being shown the way. So while I'm being shown the way, I'm also thinking I need help in the midst of all of that, which to me is ain't that so often the way it is? We think we're struggling. We think we're having a hard time. And in the midst of that, if we look, we discover some great, beautiful part of that the experience may be wonderful. On one side of it, we may sure say we didn't like that, but there was also something that was inspired in the experience for us. So today, since it's y'all, and since y'all know me, y'all know that sometimes I'm inspired and sometimes I'm anything but inspired. Okay? But I wanted to share with you today the idea of this is me. This is what's going on in my life. This is me. And that's the title of my talk today, is This Is Me. Because October has been, on some ways, just a crummy month for us. Okay? Y'all know that I didn't feel good for a section of that, and y'all did a wonderful healing circle with me. I've also, this past week, the awareness of grief in my life has just been there every day. Every day I get misty-eyed, at least, in the experience. And some of that I think is because I keep looking at what's taking place in the Middle East and the Ukraine and other parts of the world, and I feel in some ways just insignificant and inadequate to do anything about that. And I want to do something about it. And last week, we reached out and did a peace circle to address some of that together. But as I think about that grief, I think about, for me, Halloween starts the holiday season for me. We're about to move into November and Thanksgiving and then Christmas and New Year's. And I think about all the family activities that I used to do during that time, of which one branch of my family I don't do that with anymore because they're not here to do that with. My siblings are gone, my parents are gone, so that entire side of my family is not there. So I know part of me is grieving what I used to have. Used to have those wonderful Thanksgiving dinners and Christmas Eve present opening and games that we would play during those experiences. And I miss those. I grieve the loss of those. But I also noticed that there seems to be a lack of, I won't use the word stability. What I'm saying is absolute routine and certainty in my life, of which that's an illusion. There's never been absolute routine and certainty in my life, but it seems to be a little more chaotic for me right now. So I feel this lack of stability. So I know part of me is wanting that familiar, that consistency. So I'm missing that. I'm grieving that. Now think about too, Kim and I are about to go to her family's, or at least one of her siblings, one of our uncles, this next week, and we're taking her brother's ashes to be spread at a very favored cabin up there. So I know that that's on my mind in my experience. So I've had all these opportunities for grief in my life, while also thinking about what else am I looking at that I'm uncertain about, so that stability doesn't feel there. Well, what the heck is going to happen with all that's happening in the Middle East? Is that going to impact us? What's going to happen in these elections that will be coming up? What's going to happen to us? So part of me, it's returning to that unknown, uncertainty. Just like the idea of, the wars that are taking place. My concern, but uncertainty about what can I do about that. So that grief has been there, and I wondered why it was so pronounced now. But this is that time of year. Just as we talked a little last week in the ceremony, this is the season of harvest. We've come through this wonderful summer, this bounty when we've produced in nature. And now we are harvesting what we produced. And we're moving into this wonderful rest we call winter. This time of actually dormancy. And that's natural, that's nature for us. And as we move there, we get to celebrate that. And part of that is coming up, in 2 days, we have All Hallows Eve, Halloween. Well, that comes from actually a Celtic or Gaelic tradition. It was pagan, it's Wiccan now, a tradition of celebrating that change of the season, but also the idea that the veil between this world and the next gets thinner, and it's easier to connect. And connect with what? Well, connect with those that have moved on, that have parted. So All Hallows Eve actually moves into the next day. Our Latino friends celebrate what? The Day of the Dead. On November 1st, they honor the children that have passed, and on November 2nd, they honor the adults. And if you have not experienced that, or at least read about that, read about all the wonderful traditions and experience that are involved with that celebration. Because we want to think about it as something, it's only about the grief, and that's most certainly not the case. But also on November 1st is what? Is All Saints Day. It's the Catholic primary, but it's a Christian tradition of celebrating all the saints that have been in the world. And that's the saints that are known and celebrated, but that's also the saints that are unknown and not celebrated. So they're in honor. And then on November 2nd, we have All Souls Day, which is a Christian tradition of honoring those that have passed. As well as this time of year and that harvest time, you look at Korean and Chinese and other nationalities have similar type of honoring of the ancestors, honoring of those that have parted before us. So this in some ways is a season that reminds us that we're moving from this great expression of life into a time that's not such a great expression of life. Maybe even a death for some things naturally in our world. So I know that part of my grief is just aligned with that season, aligned with what's taking place here. But I don't want y'all to think that All of October has been just absolutely poo-poo for us. I've had some fun. I went to 2 Halloween parties, and I got to dress up. On the left is Kim and I, and we are, what? Zombie pirates, right? We had great fun. Actually, we probably had more fun putting on the makeup and getting dressed up than we did at the party, but we still had great fun at the party. And on the right is Kim celebrating the Day of the Dead, and with her costume, her dress and all were wonderful, and I don't have a picture of that. And me on the other side, who do you think I am? ZZ Top!
Billy Gibbons.
Billy Gibbons! And y'all are the only people on the planet that got that, because in the entire party, people were just looking at me going, who are you supposed to be? So
Wrong party.
they just did not get Billy Gibbons. That just was not it. But even when I told them, it was just right over the heads. Now that could have been because some of them were about half my age and maybe weren't ZZ Top fans. So there's been good. There's been great in my life as well. So to me, but isn't this me? That there's this mix. I had this great image this morning. I had an aunt that used to make ambrosia. You know the dish ambrosia? But she would put the most crazy things in her ambrosia. It was just this mix of all kinds of fruits and nuts and whipped creams and just the whole assortment. And one time she put corn in her ambrosia. And of course, I thought I was going to lose my mind because I loved ambrosia, and she had just run it, to use my Arkansas slang, just run that ambrosia. But that corn was so sweet that it mixed in beautifully with that ambrosia. But thinking about that ambrosia, I just think about that mess, that all this assortment, all this mixing up of things, that when you put it together, you might not like some of it. You might not think you like the corn, but the bigger picture is it's your life. It's who you are. This is me. So today, I'm supposed to be finishing up the month of October. You know, remember what we were talking about in the month of prayer for protection. And the last line of the prayer of protection is what? Wherever I am, God is. So, to me, let me see if we can tie some of these pieces together. Because I've got some things here from Charles Fillmore, our co-founder of Unity. Because we talk about that God is, that God's present, that God's present everywhere. But there may be a few things that I wanted us to maybe, I'm not going to take them as far as we can take them, but I wanted to just bring these ideas forth because sometimes they're the things that I bump up against and sometimes forget, and thus means I struggle with. And one of them is that God is personal to us. Well, does that mean that God's standing right here, just like if I walked over and put my arm around Chris? You know, is God personal that way? Charles Fillmore says that it's really, the personal aspect is identifying ourselves with the indwelling Father, with the indwelling presence. And that seems personal, but however, that personal is limited. But universal is that unlimited. So that actually when we're creating that personal connection, that personal awareness of that indwelling Father, that we're creating that universal, that unlimited connection. And that is accessible for us. That God is accessible, meaning God is approachable, is available, is usable to us. And it's usable just like the principle of mathematics. And I think about that from, let's use this. Got just a little piece of paper here. What's going to happen when I drop it?
Gonna fall.
It's going to do a little wavy and it's going to fall. Is it going to stick to the ceiling?
Probably not.
And if I flung it, would it just sail on down the hall and out the front door? No, it won't. It's going to do what? And why does it fall? Gravity! The law of gravity. So I just used the law there. Well, the same way that we use gravity, I'm using gravity to keep me so that I don't go out and visit the moon today. I'm utilizing that. I may not be aware I'm utilizing it, but I'm utilizing that law. So that accessibility of God, meaning that it's always available to us, is like a principle, a law. So whether it's mathematics, 1 + 1 = 2, whether it's gravity, that law is available to us and we get to utilize it. And that principle as God is unchangeable. It's life, it's love, it's intelligence, it's substance. And we'll come back to that. And principle doesn't occupy space. So we talk about God as everything, so my hand is waving through God, through divine. But God doesn't occupy space. God is everything. So there's not an occupying, there's not an entity, a being that's standing here with me. There is and is all that is for us. That's that God is principle. Now, coming back to substance. God is substance doesn't mean God is matter. God is substance means that behind all of matter, there is this idea, and that infinite number of ideas. That's the substance. That's formless, but it's infinite and it's unchanging. But you and I change it when we have thoughts, when we have ideas, when we bring those forth, when we use our imagination. Our daily word for today is, I imagine and create my most magnificent life. And the verse is, I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. Your sons and your daughters shall prosper. Your old men shall dream dreams, and your young men shall see visions. We use this imagination to create these ideas, and from these ideas, we then step in and take the actions that bring forth what's in our life. Just like this podium over here, this wonderful acrylic podium. You don't see too many acrylic clear ones. They're out there, but especially in churches, you see the wonderful old wooden ones with the big cross at the front of them that've been there since 1947. But somebody had an idea of a podium, of something to put things on there so you can stand up in front of people. But somebody also had an idea of, let's do a clear one. Let's not make it out of wood. Let's not make it out of metal. Let's not make it black or blue or green, but let's make it clear. That was an idea. And they imagined that. But then they had to take that idea and bring it into creation. They had to take actions with it. So for you and I, wherever I am, God is. So wherever God is, we still are the presence that has to act on that principle, has to bring it forth to us. And we go about that by, some of that is just beginning with the ideas, imagining. Someone got a new job this week. Yay!
Yay.
you had to imagine having a job and imagine going to work and imagining that the place that you went and interviewed with, that, oh, they wanted somebody, and you imagined that maybe I'm that somebody that they want, and that it'll be a great fit and we'll mesh together beautifully. You had that idea, that imagination of that. And then you took the steps, you took the actions. You didn't just sit at home and read an ad and then set it down and not do anything with it. You took an action, you called someone, you filled something out. There were steps that were involved with that. So for us, it's bringing that imagination, those ideas forth. And sometimes it's just as simple as you pick up a paintbrush and you had an idea. Well, now you've got to do something with that idea. I've got to put it on a canvas, and I got to start somewhere. And where I start may not be where I finish, but I've got to start. And then in that process, and it's a process, and maybe it's very layered. Maybe I start here, and maybe I have to set it down for a minute, day, week, whatever it might be, and come back to it and keep building on that experience for us. So wherever I am, God is remembering that that principle is there for me. I'm utilizing it. I'm acting upon it. Now, I think there's a way that I remember about this principle, and y'all have to tell me whether you just think I'm crazy. I know you already do, but maybe on this topic, whether you think I'm crazy. This is an old story. It actually comes out of another faith tradition, but I rewrote it because it's a story about Billy Bob and Bubba. And Billy Bob, his wife, has passed away. And his friend, Bubba, is going to go visiting. And when he gets there, Billy Bob is just sitting on the ground, and he's got a pot, and he's drumming on it, and he's singing a song and just laughing and having a good time. And Bubba is like, what is wrong with you? Your wife has died. I mean, this is the woman that helped you raise your family, helped you create a family, helped you create a home and a life together, and she's died. This just don't seem right. You down here beating on a pot and singing a song. And Billy Bob says, yes, when she passed, I was most certainly heartbroken. I grieved. But then I remembered that before this life, she was. Now, she didn't have this form. She didn't have this life with me. But before this life, she was in a non-existence. If I think of this life as existence. And she moved from that non-existence into this existence. She had an idea, and she created an energy, and she came into this form and this body, and life came into her. And then we lived this life. And then that transformed into something, and she moved back into that non-existence. So she actually never lost anything because she moved from non-existence to non-existence. So when I think of that, I think that she hasn't lost. And if she hasn't lost, then I haven't lost her. I've lost the relationship I have, perhaps, in this particular moment with her. But I haven't lost her because she hasn't lost anything. And it's just like the transformation of seasons. It's like moving from summer to autumn to winter. That's a natural flow. It's a natural transformation. So, Bubba pretty much can grasp that. But as he grasps it, he also wonders, how does that help me in the midst of me missing my friend's wife, who was my friend too. I take this crazy little story of Billy Bob and Bubba and recognize that all this grief that Russ has experienced, I recognize that all those things I think I've lost really have just changed forms. I haven't lost them. Does that mean I don't have my tears at times? Well, I do. But that remembering that there's nothing lost there helps me come back to remembering nothing's lost than what is. And that what is bringing me back to wherever I am, God is. There's a presence here. Is the presence always here? It's always here. And if it's always here, it's always available to me. Even when I'm confused and doubt and in my ambrosia of life and mixed up and lost and focused on the core, I'm still in that presence and still have the availability of that presence. So, with that, I can come back to what helps me return to that presence. And what do y'all use to come back to presence? How many hundreds of times have y'all heard me say that? Maybe not you, Robin, but everybody else has. Okay? What do y'all use to return to your awareness of the presence? To bring it nigh, to bring it close, as Charles Fillmore would say, so that you can recognize that indwelling Father. What do you use?
Be still.
Breath.
Be still. Silence, breath, meditation. What else?
Just be.
Just be. Stop the doing. Just be.
Be, and it's there.
Yes. What else?
First, recognizing that I'm not in that place. Like having that moment of knowing I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling chaotic. I don't feel at peace. And going, okay, this is not good for me, so let me stop for a minute.
I am focused on the corn, and now I recognize that I'm focused on the corn. Thank you. Yes. So, what about prayer? Prayer to me encompasses all the things you said. Because prayer is a process, but prayer is to bring us to all those things that y'all just voiced in its own way. So this week for you, I'm going to invite, remember those who have come before and maybe those that aren't here anymore. And remember that All Hallows Eve is really a celebration that we're close. That veil is thin, and that we're much closer to that afterlife, that other place, that non-existence. But also that we can acknowledge and celebrate. There's help me with that word.
Communal.
Why that word won't come out of my mouth, so we'll just like the video, we'll jump. That celebration of the lives that we've had, but also it's an acknowledgement of the life that we have, the experience that we still have, that you can have fun in the midst of whatever's taking place in life. So remembering that, just as Robin said, remembering where we're at and what we're experiencing. And maybe I am focused on the corn. Well, what else? Meaning the corn of this week might be grief, that I'm focused on that loss. Well, that's not all that's there. I had a great life. I think about my sister, because my sister was my most recent sibling that I still had connection with, that I would go and she loved to play stupid games with Kim and I, board games and types of games, as well as she loved to cook, and always frustrated me because whenever I'd ask for the recipe, she could only give me the ingredients, never the amount, because she didn't measure anything. She just threw it in. It was like, how am I supposed to make that? No way I could come reproduce that. So I remember those things. I remember my experiences with her. And that allows me to actually celebrate her, to acknowledge that experience I had with her, and the fun and the joy and sometimes the pain that we had together. So this week, remember, however you might want to do that. I wish I were connected to a community that did a very public celebration of Day of the Dead, because some of those traditions are just so fun but so empowering. And because of that, today I want us to do our own little variation of a ceremony. As I said last week, Charles Fillmore wasn't a big fan of rituals, and it was mainly because he was in an era in which the ritual that he was talking about was done in the church 10,000 times and had no meaning, no significance. It was just something that was rote. And he also wanted to bring us back to the awareness that you're the experience. The ritual isn't what brings power forth, brings something forth for us. You're what do that. So the rituals I'm doing today aren't powerful in themselves. It's just simply for us to remember. And guess what? Y'all are all going to get to be part of it, okay? Whether y'all want to volunteer or not, I'm volunteering today since we have this number, okay? Because this is, in some ways, a remembrance of our ancestors, a remembrance of those who've come before us. Oh, no, go away. There we go. When I don't want it to play. So in a minute, I'm going to have each one of you come up here. Okay? I know for Rain you don't want to get up front, but I'm going to ask you to. Okay? Because I want you to read a couple sentences, a couple easy lines. It's part of the process that we're doing here. Because I already have a candle lit. For those of us that have been in unity for 1,000,000 years, what's the candle that we light? The light within. It's the Christ candle. The Christ within us. The light within us. So that light is here. It's representing that. That flame of itself, well, it might burn something down, but of itself, it doesn't really have much power. It's us recognizing that that's reminding us that that light, that flame, that intensity, that burning is within us. That same experience is there. And that when we light our candles, we may light them in remembrance of something, someone, but we're lighting and igniting our connection to that Christ, to that light within us. So we're going to light candles as well. And we have a whole assortment up here. And what I think I'm going to do here is have Angel come forward, and she's going to be our official lighter. You got a matchstick there.
You would like me to light them now?
I would not.
Okay.
Stand there and look beautiful. Here we go. Oh, she mastered it. There we go. Thank you. So, come over to this side.
Okay.
Because I don't want you to cover up the cookies. Because we got goodies up here on the table. and also have a glass of water. So I put those there because they just signify that as we remember those that have come before us, that we remember whether that's our ancestors, our family, whether that's our friends, whether that's Matthew Perry of Friends fame that I read had passed, that was in my news feed this morning. So whoever it might be that we know has made a transition on from this life. But we're remembering those who have touched our lives. But that also means that might be the people that are in our lives still presently, those that have touched our lives. So we remember the great, the ambrosia. We remember the wonderful parts that we cherish, but we also remember the parts that were maybe not so joyous, maybe a little more sorrow-filled. We remember those. So we remember that the air that we breathe is the air they breathe. And the bread and the sweetness in life that they ate, we ate. That sweetness that we eat, they ate. And the water that they drank is the water we drink. And the water we drink is the water that they drink. There's a connection there for us. So, as we light these 5 candles, and we're going to light more than 5, but as we light the initial 5 that Angel's going to help us with here. In fact, why don't you come back around here again? That way you can be here, and I'm going to have you come up, and I'm going to let you just come up at whatever order you want to come up in, and I'm going to have you read this line, and as you read the line, Angel's going to light a candle for us. So she's going to help us ignite that memory. So before we do that, I invite you just to close your eyes, to settle in. That flame burns. It burns within us. That presence, that principle, that law, that Christ is within us. And that today we call upon that, meaning we acknowledge it, we recognize it, and we move into knowing that the Father and I are one. This divine presence and I are one. This is me. And as we remember our friends, our family, those that have come, those that are still here, remember that that presence is within them as well. And wherever they may have moved on to in this life and the life beyond, that presence is still there. They did not end, nor do we. And today we celebrate. We actually acknowledge the passing, but celebrate the life. So in celebrating that life, I invite you to open your eyes again. And who would like to come forward and read the first line for me, please? Yay, volunteer.
This probably isn't too scary.
And so they can hear you online. And you're going to read just number 1.
This candle represents our grief. The pain of losing you is intense. It reminds us of the depth of our love for you.
Yes. Yes. There we go. Thank you, Brian. And who would like to read the second? Number 2.
This candle represents our courage to confront our sorrow, to comfort each other, and to change our lives.
This candle is in your memory, the times we laughed, the times we cried, the times we were angry with each other, the silly things you did, and the caring and joy you gave and give to us.
Thank you.
Well, I guess I read this.
I guess you would. Number 4.
This candle is the light of love. As we enter this holiday season, day by day, we cherish the special place in our hearts that will always be reserved for you. We thank you for the gift your living brought to each of us.
Thank you for being the love, Chris. And I'll read the 5th. And this candle is the light of hope. It reminds us of the love and the memories of you that are ours forever. May the glow of the flame be our source of hopefulness now and forever. We love you. And before you sit down, if you want to light a candle for you or for anyone else in your life, you can do that. It's a nub.
If I can interject a personal note while you're lighting candles. As some of you know, I spent 4 weeks in India at something called tapas, not Spanish small meals. Tapas in the ancient language it just popped out of my head. How's that? Sanskrit, thank you. Tapas refers to the fire of transformation. So fire is on my mind very much.
Yes. Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
I often wondered if initially hell and hellfire was for transformation instead of punishment.
I like that.
Well, the wonderful Ferenc, yes. Some of the ways Charles talked about hell was, that hell is an error thought. But that thought is what's helped us recognize who we are. Because in the hell of the experience, we recognize that in essence we're not that. So we have the opportunity to transform, actually to transmute, to become really what we are. But that's a process of transformation. So thank you.
So can't we think about that as what's going on in the world today?
How so? Say more.
Transformation.
That transformation is taking place in the world. And in the midst of the pain and the chaos and the suffering and the war and the death, that there's a transformation.
Yes.
And there's an expansion, an opening, a becoming that's taking place for us. And hopefully, as you said earlier, there's a being that's taking place, to be, out of all the doing that we're being witness to. Would others like to come and light a candle? It can be for loved ones, departed. It can be for people in your life now. It can be for you.
Do I have to say who? I'm just,
No, you don't.
it's too big for that. So.
Well, if you'd like to afterwards come up and light one, know that you're welcome to. And let me close what we're doing here with this is a poem from Paul Alexander. It says, "And I will light a candle for you to shatter all the darkness and bless the times we knew. Like a beacon in the night, the flame will burn bright and guide us on our way. Oh, today I light a candle for you. The seasons come and go. I'm weary from the change. I keep moving on. You know it's not the same. And when I'm walking all alone, do you hear me call your name? Do you hear me sing the songs we used to sing? You filled my life with wonder, touched me with surprise. Always saw that something special deep within your eyes. And through the good times and the bad, we carried on with pride. I hold on to the love and life we knew. Oh, today I light a candle for you." And as we did last week, I'm going to tone 3 times to just send this out. Let it radiate through all existence. I'm just going to invite us just to spend a moment in the silence. So thank you. Thank you for allowing me to volunteer you to participate. And I just want to say as we move into these last couple pieces before we close today, that thank you for allowing me to share this as me. Because hopefully I see me in you. I sometimes see your struggles and your heartaches, but I also see your presence, the Christ, the light that you are. And sometimes I gravitate back and forth between those. But I recognize that in you. And so I recognize that as I continue to hold that deeper awareness, to pull close to that indwelling awareness that I and the Father are one, that I continue to hold and deepen that for you. And to me, as part of a community, that's one of the great gifts I think we give to each other. So as we often do I'm gonna invite us to, in between each line, put the affirmation. So the light of God surrounds me. I am light, etc. So if you'll join me together. The love of God surrounds me. Sorry, I messed up. Again today, it just keeps going.
You can't remember the first time, so it's fine.
One more time, together. The light of God surrounds me. I am light. The love of God enfolds me. I am love. The power of God protects me. I am power. The presence of God watches over me. I am presence. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well. And in spite of appearances, all is well. So thank y'all. I will. I will remember you through this week. And as I, in my own way, celebrate the things that are coming up, I hope that you celebrate those, acknowledge those in your own ways, your own ceremonies, your own experience, your own prayer time, your own silence time, all and any of that for you. So with that, I just had a flash. I used to have a Lutheran minister, Pastor Brevin. I haven't thought of Pastor Brevin in years, and he just came to mind to me. Because he didn't always end in the same way, but often he would say, go in peace, go in love. So I invite, be the peace, be the love, and get out.